And we're live. All right. We finally got this working. Sweet, a little late to the party, but that's fine. Let's see. What's going on, everyone? Viewers of the Kwak Brothers. We did have a little bit of technical difficulties. As you can probably tell, Dave is adjusting my camera right now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move around just so it's going to be hard for him to capture me. But I hope this is good. We were supposed to actually have the ability for somebody to call in, but for some reason we were experiencing some technical difficulties this morning. So we're going to go off the chat, and hopefully next week it's going to be able to work. Hey, Dave, can you do me a favor? Can you move that camera a little higher? Because even if I stand up straight, there we go. Awesome. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Dave. Man, thank goodness for technological people. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to just go ahead and use the chat this morning for your real estate investing questions. Again, we originally planned for you guys to be able to call in, but for some reason that was not it was not able to stream this morning. So we'll go ahead and take a look at that. But nevertheless, whether you guys are calling in, whether you guys are putting the questions in the chat, either way, I'm here to answer your guys' questions. And you know what, we'll go if need be, we'll go to like 12:10 Central Time, just because we started this a little later. And again, guys, because of our technical difficulties, I apologize. But now let's get this show on the road. I always do have a little bit of a short training. And I also talk about how I personally got started, because we do have people online right now. So if you guys have questions right now, feel free to chat that in, put that in the chat box. If you have any questions regarding real estate investing, we got about 10 people right now. So that should be enough for us to have a good, decent conversation. So go ahead, guys, put your questions in the chat box. If not, I'll go ahead and say a little spiel, I guess. All right, so I'm not seeing any questions, so let's go ahead and I guess I'll talk about some common questions that I get very often. One of the common questions that I get, and again, guys, as I speak, as I kind of train, as I talk, if you guys want to put in questions in the chat box, again, this is for you guys. I am spending this hour of my day going live on YouTube to bring value to you guys, the Kwak Brothers viewers, on real estate investing. So whenever you guys have questions, feel free to go ahead and put it in the chat box. So one of the common questions that I do get in terms of frequently asked questions is, Daniel, how did you get started? How did you get started in real estate investing? And, you know, I'm not sure if people ask me that because they don't know what else to ask, or if they're genuinely interested in how I personally got started. So this is a question that I also ask a lot to a lot of different individuals. You know, to a lot of different individuals. When I personally first got started, I remember asking anyone from, you know, anyone from people who did like 2 flips a year, right? They only own like 3 or 4 rentals, all the way to a guy who, you know, controlled like $500 million in real estate. So I would always ask them, how did you get started? And when I asked those questions, I would say the answer is very similar to mine, and it's that it really does differ. You know, everybody's story is unique. Now, if we're talking about what I personally did, or what I would do if I were to personally get started in real estate, here's what I would do. So if I know what I know now, and I had a time machine, right, and I went back 6 years when I first got started in real estate investing, I would tell myself to, first off, read a lot about personal development, right? A lot about personal development. So if you think about, you know, a car, right? A lot of people say, well, how did you get this far in your real estate investing career? How did you become this successful? How did you necessarily start? Okay, well, the starting is very similar to like starting a car, right? And success is a lot like, you know, and as cliche and as corny as this is going to sound, you know, success is like a road. You know, some people have just driven farther than, you know, some people have cars that are faster, due to talent, due to skill, due to resources, whatever it may be. And some people, have a Prius, right? Or they're very efficient, or they're able to go a very long time without, So I'd say starting is like starting a car. Every car starts the same way, right? Some cars make more noise than other cars, right? If you turn on a Ferrari, right? If you turn on a Ferrari, then it's going to make a lot of noise, right? It's going to go vroom, right? And it's going to like get you all perked up. It's going to be awesome, right? Some cars, it's going to be like a Prius. They're not going to make much noise, right? But I would say, if you ask me what's the better car, a Prius or a Ferrari, well, that depends. If you're talking about value, if you're talking about monetary value, obviously a Ferrari costs more. But if you're talking about mileage and gas efficiency, well, then you got to go with the Prius. So it's the same thing, guys, right? When you first start that car, when you first start your real estate investing entrepreneurial journey, right? Just because an individual makes a lot of noise, it does not necessarily mean they're going to be successful. Matter of fact, when I first got started, there were many people around me who made a lot of noise. They're like, oh, I'm going to do this. Well, I'm going to do that. Man, I'm going to be the first to do this. And a year later, they're nowhere to be found. They're nowhere to be found. So, Rob, I see we just got a question from you. So why don't I go ahead and just kind of wrap up this thing in a couple minutes, and I'll go ahead and address your question. So, it's a lot like, again, it's like starting out, how to start. It's like starting a car, right? Some people make a lot of noise, some people don't. But more importantly, right, your personal development is your engine, right? That's your gas mileage. That's what dictates, right? So some people are like Ferraris with the gas mileage of a Prius, right? That's just the way it is because, well, if you have the engineering to be able to do that, right? That's as similar as you spending a lot of time investing into personal development, investing in yourself, right? So imagine a car with, a Ferrari with the gas mileage of a Prius, the hipness of a Tesla, right? And the technology of a Tesla, right? There's a lot of things that you could engine, and investing in yourself is a lot like making upgrades to a car, but with you, right? So I say if you want to go far, if you want to have the right engine, the right foundation, start with personal development. So obviously reading books like Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, setting a standard for yourself. I'm not a big fan of goals, right? A lot of people tell me like, Daniel, what are your goals? What are your goals? Guys, I'm going to be honest with you. 2-3 years earlier, I stopped making goals, especially with like New Year's resolutions, right? I stopped making goals. Instead, I started setting standards and expectations for myself. I noticed that if I set goals, that's something for me to work towards, and that's fantastic. But for me, that's very temporary. All goals have a what by when, and that's awesome. That's fantastic. I endorse that all day long. But for me personally, right, I set standards and expectations on who I'm going to be every single day. And for me, that's worked out fantastic. All right. So Rob just asked the question, scope out 4-unit property. How do I request for seller financing through the agent? What is the ideal seller financing type to ask for to take over the property? Okay, got it. So seller financing, there is no ideal seller financing type, right? I mean, I wouldn't say there's different types of seller financing. Seller financing is just one strategy, just like how there's no different types of doing a cash offer, right? Like you can do a partial cash offer where you do part, right? There's different ways to frame cash offers, and there's different ways to frame seller financing. But I wouldn't say there's different types of seller financing. Now, how do you request for seller financing through the agent? Well, this is where a lot of your educational and coaching mindset has to come in. So you have to be very knowledgeable, first off, about what seller financing necessarily is, right? Do you know what seller financing is? And do you know not only what it is, but how do you best portray it? Can you explain in 5 minutes, right? 3 to 5 minutes, what the basics of seller financing is to the point where a layman can hear it, right? So an average Joe Schmo can listen to it and say, tell me more. And that's mainly what you want. So I did a deal. I did a 24-unit apartment complex with seller financing with a broker involved. Now, the logistics was that the broker just took his commission off the down payment. So it was a 24-unit building. I bought it for $1.5 million. and the down payment was 170 grand, which, that's about 12%, 11.3% actually. So 11.3% was $170,000. The broker's commission on that was around, I think he got paid 87 grand for being the commercial broker on it. He just took the 87 grand off the 170. And so the reason why we landed at the 170 number was because that was what he was going to pay in commission and also in taxes. So he had about $83,000, I think, in taxes that he had to pay. I don't know if it was I think it was capital gains, or maybe it was ordinary income, but it was probably capital gains. So he paid $83,000 in taxes, $87,000 in commission for the broker, and that totaled the 170 that we needed to provide for the down payment. So again, Rob, it's going to have to be a lot about you educating the realtor and also the seller on seller financing and how they would be compensated for that. I've met a lot of individuals who, their philosophies to go around the realtor. I am not of that philosophy. I say that, listen, if the broker signed a listing agreement with the seller, then so be it, right? Those are the cards that you're playing with. And most of the time that you wouldn't have found a deal without the broker. If that's not the case, then, right, again, I try and make peace and build bridges with as many people as I possibly can. Now, if that's not the case and I'm forced to do something else, if the broker is putting the seller's best interest in jeopardy and they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, in that case, then I'll find ways I could go around it. But for the most part, if the broker is genuinely interested in helping out the seller and they have their best interest in mind, which every broker and realtor should be doing, then I don't mind it. I don't mind it at all. All right, next question. C. Sanchez asks, should I use my own money or should I take out a loan to invest? So that honestly depends. I do not know a whole lot about your personal financial situation. I don't know how much capital you do have. I always say that one of the beauties about real estate investing is the fact that you get to leverage. There's very few instances where I buy properties all cash. I bought a property all cash probably about 3 months ago when I closed on a property that I am looking to run a nightly rental business out of. But that was, again, a very small case where I had used to my advantage. Now, considering the value of leveraging real estate, the greatest value in real estate investing, which is leverage, can also be individuals' biggest downfall. I've noticed that a lot of people in the past have made the mistake. And a lot of times, guys, success in real estate is not about what gets you forward. It's a lot of times it's just about not messing up. It's about it's about not making the same mistakes that other people have made. And history does repeat itself. So I always say, the greatest asset can also be your greatest liability, which is, in this case, leverage. So I say, C. Sanchez, if you're in a position where, you're able to build a lot of cash flow, but also a lot of principal on top of that. Like if you're able to walk in a bank and they give you a phenomenal program, I wouldn't use government financing right now. So like Fannie Mae, I just wouldn't, right? Just because in terms of, if you look at the municipal bond market, if you look at the treasury bonds, which, that's a lot of mumbo jumbo that, that I'm personally a nerd in, right? I just love learning about that stuff. If you pay attention to what's going on there, and considering that 54% of all apartment complex financing has been done through Fannie Mae the last 3 to 5 years, I think there's a lot of issues that's going to occur in the future. Now, I may be wrong. I'm more than happy to be wrong. But whenever I studied history and I looked at different financing options for real estate investing in the last 50 years, the one that, again, has been over leveraged that a lot of people use and abused, it doesn't end up going out really well. Kind of like subprime mortgages in 2007 hasn't ended up working out really well. So again, I hope I'm wrong because there's a lot of people's livelihood that's at stake. But I would try but again, see, Sanchez, if you're able to walk into a bank, and, they see that you're very liquid and they give you, 4.4% commercial rate on 30-year fixed rate financing with 20% down, no balloon, and, a lot of these great benefits and side assets that they can provide for you, I say go for it, right? Use the greatest asset that real estate has to provide, which is the concept of leverage. But if that's not the case and you're in a position where you're over leveraging yourself, you're not getting the rates you're looking for, and you're not necessarily able to hit your goals, hit your financial goals, your investing goals,